I don't identify as Afro-Italian simply because I don't feel connected to this country, even though I was born and raised here, but I feel more connected to my country of origin, which is Ghana. No, actually, a lot of my friends identify as Afro-Italian. I think that I'm the only exception. There is a problem with the term because it's not sufficient to describe people within the Afro-Italian community, because some might identify themselves with specific terms, for instance, Italo-Nigerian or Italo-Ethiopian or Italo-Moroccan. So, generally speaking, Afro-Italian, I think, is the correct term to describe us. From an external point of view, I'm part of the Afro-Italian community, but, if you have to ask individually, some of the people within the Afro-Italian community will rather choose the specific term to describe himself or herself. The Afro-Italian community is like a reflection, of the African continent. So the Afro-Italian community is diverse. Within the community, we can have little cultural differences that distinguish, for instance, an Italo-Egyptian from an Italo-Ivorian. We are living this dichotomy of being African and Italian. But we know that these two identities are not mutually exclusive. There was an Afro-German poet who said, "I will be African even if you want me to be German. I would be German even if my blackness does not suit you." Like here in Italy right now, we are facing the same experience because the society is not ready to accept us as being black and as being Italian. So I think that Italy still has a long way to go on that issue. Italy has a colonial past, but the colonial past that Italy has doesn't have the same effect that has in France or in the UK. But I think that the Italian colonial history is still much felt in East Africa, because that was the part that Italy tried to colonize: Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea. I think that in East Africa, Italian colonial past is still felt, but here in Italy, no. I think that Italians have ignored or have forgotten about the colonial history. Actually, Italians tend to forget also that people of African descent have existed in nearly every moment of its history. Like, for instance, Italy is the only Western country that can recount in its history two leaders of African descent. There was Lorenzo de' Medici in Florence, and during the Roman Empire there was Publius Septimius Severus. Like, if you go to Verona, the patron saint of Verona is African. His name is San Zeno. San Zeno was from Mauritania. But Italians tend to ignore this. They don't want to acknowledge the African presence in this country. They think that it's just a recent phenomenon. Black people in Italian media are present, but you also have to analyze the qualitative presence of black people in the media and the quantitative presence of black people, because in media, the black body is always associated with immigrants. The black body is never associated with black Italians, for instance. So like when they see me on the street, the first thing they likely assume is that I'm a foreigner. So they get surprised when I speak the language fluently. Also, the black body is kind of, especially for women, the black body in the media is kind of sexualized. And the underrepresentation of the black body, I think it affects more women than men. Let's say when an Italian sees, a black woman on the street, the first thing that probably he would think is to associate the black women to a sexual context. So the approach will will not be based, on knowing the person, but it will be based, on, having some sexual encounter or some sexual relation. Black males prefer to date white Italians. Maybe going back to what we were saying before, like maybe internalized colonial mentality or internalized white Eurocentric view. I think that it's a problem. I like to see the diaspora as a universe which is continually expanding. So, there are always new African diasporic community that can be born across the globe. Right now we have us, Afro-Italians, and now we have the Afro-Chinese and Afro-Turkish. Generally, when we talk about the black diaspora, we don't tend to include Italy in the discourse. Let's say, for instance, if I go to France and ask a black friend to tell me about an Afro-Italian writer, I don't think that she or he can name them, since the black presence in France or in Germany or in the UK is deep-rooted. We know a lot. We know more about them than here in Italy. So, if you have to define the diaspora, I would define the diaspora like connecting with other black communities. So, if you want to really connect with other black communities, then we have to know about each other. We have to know about the struggle that we are facing. So, I think that it's important that other African diasporic communities across the globe know about the struggle that we are the struggle and the experiences we are facing here in Italy. Because I think that we can, even if we are newborn community, I think that we can have a voice in the general African diaspora discourse. So I think it's important. I like to see the diaspora as a universe which is continually expanding. So, there are always new African diasporic community that can be born across the globe. Italians have ignored or have forgotten about the colonial history. Italians tend to forget also that people of African descent have existed in nearly every moment of its history.